Upon further review, Tennessee absolutely destroyed NC State on Saturday night. We checked the tape. We got plenty more thoughts. Your complete recap a couple days later of Tennessee over NC State. Reactionary Monday starts right now.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good Monday morning, everybody. Welcome into it, your Monday morning Locked On Vols. We're going to recap. We're going to react to everything we saw Saturday in Charlotte, Bank of America Stadium, where your Tennessee Volunteers put the beat down on the Wolfpack of NC State, 51-10, the final score. We'll have scoring plays in segment number 2. Cainer grades. We'll hand out some game balls in segment number 3. Segment number 1, some more recap. I did a postcast show late on a Saturday night, early into a Sunday morning. I know a lot of you guys probably listened or watched that, and I appreciate that. But we'll kind of go back, and I had a chance to go back and watch a simulated version of the game here on Sunday when I got back home. So I got some more thoughts, and we'll hit some of the big topics, the big three, if you will, here in segment number 1. Couldn't do this show without our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. You can go to 5hourenergy.com, use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. Appreciate our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. So Tennessee won 51-10, and again, it was expected, at least on my end, and I feel like it was kind of a shared expectation amongst the national panelists. I know you're never going to get a consensus all the way around when you're picking games or something like that. I know that, but for the most part, the overwhelming majority of national media people and NC State people and Tennessee people were picking Tennessee to win this game. And more than that, it was more of a, how much is Tennessee going to win this game by? And certainly I don't ever like to disrespect your opponent before you play your opponent, but, I've liked Tennessee by, 2 scores for a couple of weeks now, really dating back to July when we first kind of started talking about this. But the more and more you got closer to game time, I'm like, if you stop number 10, Tennessee's going to win this game by however much Tennessee wants to win this game by. And Casey Concepcion had 3 receptions on drive number 1. He had 2 receptions the rest of the game. I mean, Tennessee shut him down. Tennessee shut down that offensive attack for NC State that went 10 plays, 29 yards on drive number 1 of the football game. It was not the start that you wanted for the Tennessee defense. Excuse me, it went 12 plays, 29 yards. And you talk about yards per play right there. That's a little over 2 yards per play. I mean, that is not very good. Took off almost 7 minutes of the clock. Tennessee a big TFL there on 3rd down, and the Volunteers forced a punt there for NC State on its opening possession, and Tennessee never looked back. Went down, scored on its next possession. And of course, we know, Max Gilbert had a couple of field goals. Will Brooks had the pick 6 that really kind of ignited what turned into be a blowout victory for Tennessee. The pick 6, 87 yards or 85 yards. Joshua Josephs got up there and kind of made it difficult on Grayson McCall. We'll hear that play call courtesy of the Vol Radio Network here in segment number 2. But, Tennessee overall, I thought this was, and Josh Heupel said it in postgame, and again, disclaimer, yeah, sure, Tennessee will see better offenses, but as I said all last week, and I'll maintain that, especially because NC State's playing in the ACC, that offense for NC State, I do feel like if they stay healthy and they give them time, they'll turn into a pretty decent unit. They have too many pass catchers that you like. That offensive line, when not going up against Tennessee, you think you learn from Western Carolina, it should be pretty decent. So, we'll wait and see how this NC State offense will look like in a couple of weeks, but Tennessee will face better offenses. Alabama will have a better offense for sure. Georgia will have a better offense. Oklahoma will have a better offense. We'll see what, some other offenses Tennessee faced this year at the time of the game. But just an elite performance defensively. I mean, 143 yards of total offense is incredible. That is the lowest total of the Josh Heupel era, so I thought that was pretty cool. 39 yards rushing. That is the second lowest of the Josh Heupel era. Tennessee allowed only 104 yards through the air. I mentioned the 3rd downs on that 12-play opening play drive for NC State. They were 3 for 3 on 3rd downs until they went for it on the 4th time on 3rd down. They missed that one, had to punt. After those 3 3rd downs they converted on the opening drive, they went 0 for 9 the rest of the game. Tennessee's 3rd down defense was elite. Tennessee's rush defense was elite. Tennessee's pass rush defense was elite. 13 TFLs, 3 sacks. James Pierce did not have a huge stat line, but going back on rewatch, I thought James Pierce really affected Grayson McCall in a number of ways there, especially early in the football game. He just couldn't get home, but he forced him to move around the pocket a little bit, take off running. He was setting his other teammates up for success. He had a spin move one time in the first quarter. Whew! It looked really good. So I do think the stats will come for James Pierce. But somebody asked me on Sunday afternoon, like, do you think James Pierce has got a slow start to the season? Well, yeah, of course. He played 10 snaps in the opener. He's not gonna play hardly at all against Kent State, because why would you, right? And then, like, stat-wise, it wasn't a huge game too, but I do think that he was effective in a lot of other different ways. So I thought Tennessee's defense was fantastic. So hats off to those guys. Phenomenal effort, in my opinion. I thought Jamal McCoy played well. I thought Keenan Peely played well. I thought Omar Norman-Lott, Bryson Easton, Amari Thomas, Joshua Josephs, Dominic Bailey. Thought Arian Carter, Jeremiah Thielander. I mean, I'm going up and down the list. I mean, pretty much everybody that I saw I thought had a pretty decent game. So shout out to the defense. That was my biggest takeaway from that football game, and I'm sure it was yours as well. Miles Kitselman, over the offseason, at least over at VolQuest.com, we've been telling you, like, hey, we continue to hear Miles Kitselman's name in spring practice and fall camp as a guy that, sure, not just going to be an inline blocker, but a guy that can really play in space. And Tennessee went to 12 personnel. What is 12 personnel? 12 personnel is one running back, two tight ends. I think Tennessee has wanted to go 12 personnel several times in the 3 years Josh Heupel's been here. They've gone to 12 personnel a couple of times. I can count on one hand how many times they ran 12 personnel around the goal line. But for over half of the offensive snaps before it turned into a clear blowout in the second half, Tennessee was combating that 3-3 stack with 12 personnel. They would have Miles Kitselman on the line. They would have Holden Stays as the H-back over here. And Ethan Davis would rotate in there as well, but they were primarily going with Kitselman on the line and Holden Stays as an H-back. And they would combat those stunts and those blitzes and all that with that 12 personnel. And Miles Kitselman was on the field a lot. And I mean, he's going to be on the field a lot this season. He technically has been the starter at tight end the last two games, the first two games of the season. But he had 2 receptions in 2022 for Alabama, his first year in power football, coming up from JUCO. No receptions last year. And on Saturday night, Miles Kitselman finished with 3 receptions for 39 yards and a touchdown. Had another touchdown that was called back. Miles Kitselman had a great game. That was awesome to see for him. That was really, really cool. And the 12 personnel, though I don't think Tennessee will make that a home base in terms of a grouping that they're going to run out there a ton, I do think that's something they have in their back pocket, to where when Georgia is just flooding Tennessee's offensive line and Tennessee's backs and tight ends are having issues picking up blitzers, you can roll that 12 personnel back out there with 2 tight ends, and that's going to be something to combat that a little bit. How many times in big games where it just feels like Tennessee's offensive line and the front just kind of overwhelmed at times because they're going up against really good NFL caliber players? I think a 12 personnel set, like we saw on Saturday night, is something in the back pocket that Josh Heupel and Glenn Ellerby can say, okay, we're struggling here. Let's go out here with 12 personnel. So it was really, really good to see. But Tennessee's 12 personnel usage shocked NC State. They said it in postgame. Said they had not showed that on tape hardly at all. And they haven't. I just said they showed it on tape. I can count on the number of, one hand how many times they've done that in 3 years. So I thought that was really, really cool. Last little bit here, and I mentioned this in the postcast show, and we'll discuss a little bit more in segment 3. Offensively, ran the football really well. Dylan Sampson, awesome job. Tennessee, I don't believe, allowed any sacks of the offensive line. Tennessee had 460 yards of total offense, 211 through the air, 249 on the ground. I mean, that's solid. Like, the offense was fine. However, I do think that in a game where you scored 41 more points than your opponents, your offense had a bad day. And the fact that you won by 41 points, heck, man. I mean, what a showing, right? What's that say about where you are as a team, at least right now? Credit Josh Heupel, his staff, and those players, that they left a lot to be desired out there. However, you still dominated this football game. I thought Nico made some awesome plays. I said the word pedestrian in terms of him throwing the football Saturday night. Somebody jumped in my comments and called me every name in the book. I mean, again, people just overreact. Like, I guess I will say this, pedestrian was probably a poor choice of words. Nico was far from perfect, but he was far from bad. I thought Nico was solid. He threw 2 picks. Both of those he probably should have, put in his back pocket a little bit. One, he got drilled when he was throwing it. And Josh Heupel said that one specifically, he shot it probably just should have took the sack. The first interception, he tried to fit into a window. He had no business throwing in there too. But again, you were in 12 personnel. Only 2 guys were running routes. So your options were kind of limited a little bit. That's why, like, 12 personnel, a downfall is you don't have the defense kind of spread out with that slot out there. Everybody's kind of, I mean, they can, Kitselman caught a touchdown coming out of that 12 personnel with his hand in the dirt. It's still possible, but everything's kind of condensed in there. It's not spread out. Nico said after the game, I'm pumped about the win. I'm super proud of my teammates. I'm happy. I thought I was okay. I know there's a lot of things I need to correct, and I thought that was a great mindset, right? So he made some, arguably his best throw, albeit from squirrel on the wheel right down the sideline. His throw to Kitselman was a good one. His throw to Kitselman on the touchdown that got called back on the scramble drill, where he just flipped his hips in a real hurry and just kind of slung it downfield. I thought that was awesome. But, Nico, stat line, it's a little unimpressive, at least through the air. Now, he had a big game on the ground as well, had a 31-yard touchdown run, had 65 yards on a touchdown. He was fine. He was not bad at all. But I do think that there is lots more that he left on the field. And in return, not just Nico, but the offense was 5 for 6 in the red zone. The offense had to settle for 2 field goals in the red zone. They kicked 3 field goals overall. You need to finish drives, because against NC State, that's okay. Against Georgia, against Alabama, it's probably not going to be okay. So, again, I'm nitpicking here. Tennessee won 51-10. Nico was fine. Nico was solid. Tennessee's run game was awesome. Tennessee's defense was elite. Max Gilbert got some opportunities. I thought that was awesome. So, those were kind of my big takeaways. And going back on film, I kind of stay in that regard. Hey, we'll hear from the Vol Radio Network in terms of scoring plays, how it sounded when Tennessee found the end zone, and we'll hand out some game balls here in a minute, and we'll go over some Cainer grades. All that and more as we continue reacting and reviewing Tennessee's 51-10 win over NC State. 5-hour energy fixes tired fast. Whether you have a long list to do for work or a list of DIY projects to tackle at home, take a 5-hour energy shot so you can check everything off your list. If you're like me, you always have a large list of projects for the home. When you get your supplies for the projects, don't forget the most essential supply, which is your 5-hour energy shot. We're talking about DIY projects at home, but I mean, football season is my busy season, right? So, I mean, you got the game on Saturday. I got to rewatch the game, got to write a column, got to do this show, got to do a live show on Sunday nights. My best friend on a Sunday afternoon, and Mondays for that matter, are 5-hour energies. They get me focused, they get me energized. I'm ready to go to tackle my work list, and it can do that for you as well. Zero sugar, convenient portable sizes. It's a perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. 5-Hour Energy websites has flavors like watermelon. My favorite, the Tropical Burst, grape berry, and there's a flavor for everyone. You can try them all. You can also have your assortments of a 12-pack or a 24-pack to choose from, and they'll deliver it right to your door. Go to 5hourenergy.com, the number 5hourenergy.com, to pick up your 5-Hour Energy products. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. LOCKEDONCFB, 20% off your order. The offer is valid through September 30th on one order, cannot be used on other promotions. This code is not good on other subscriptions. Go to 5hourenergy.com today and use my promo code that is LOCKEDONCFB. Hey guys, welcome back in your Monday morning Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys for making us a part of your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. Every day is your show. It's coming up tomorrow. Get in those questions, those comments, those concerns for the mailbag edition of the show. That's coming up on tomorrow's edition of Locked On Vols. Check out Locked On SEC and Locked On College Football to make it your second and your third listen here this morning as well. All right, so we talked about it a little bit. We watched it on Saturday night. If you're like me, you've watched it again. How did it sound? Courtesy of the Vol Radio Network, the Bob Kessling, Pat Ryan, and Brent Hubbs. Something I like to do here on a Monday morning, every Monday morning during football season. I have written permission from the Vol Radio Network to play these clips, and hope you guys enjoy them. All right, so it was a punt fest a little bit early on. We mentioned NC State started off really, really well. Long, sustaining drive, 6:49 off the clock, 29 plays for NC State, but only 29 yards. Tennessee forces a punt. Tennessee gets it. They go 7 plays, 34 yards, but Tennessee has to punt it back to NC State. NC State goes 3 and out, 3 plays, -1 yards, and then Tennessee gets the football back, marches 9 plays, 62 yards, takes 4 minutes and 10 seconds off the clock, and it's the first of 2 touchdowns on the day. The first touchdown of the game for Tennessee, Dylan Sampson from 9 yards away.
On second down, can get a first down at the 1. Hand off Sampson over left guard. He sprints into the end zone. Touchdown, Tennessee. Big, huge gap over left tackle. And Dylan Sampson able to spread into the end zone for the first score of the night from 9 yards out. And Tennessee leads NC State 6-0.
So Tennessee was up 7-0 after that Dylan Sampson touchdown and PAT. Tennessee gives the football back to NC State on the ensuing possession. Again, 3 plays, this time -7 yards. So a 2-drive stretch for NC State, 2 3-and-outs, 6 total plays, -8 yards. And taken off over 4 minutes of game action as well. Again, just another example of how Tennessee's defense was just phenomenal in this regard. All right, so Tennessee gets the football back, marching down to the 43-yard line, and this is when Nico tries to fit it in between 4 defenders. He's intercepted. That leads to a field goal, try and make from NC State to cut the deficit to 7-3. Well, Tennessee answers back with a field goal a couple minutes later, makes it 10-3. Tennessee gets an interception. All right, it's returned for 85 yards by who? The walk-on safety, Will Brooks, and this is what really got the party started. Tennessee, of course, went up 17-3 at this point in time. Here's how it sounded, courtesy of the Ball Radio Network.
McCall, pass, little slip screen. Yes! Intercepted at the 15-yard line. Up the left sideline to the 40, to midfield. That's Will Brooks racing toward the 20, to the 10. He's going to take it all the way for a Tennessee touchdown. Will Brooks goes 85 yards. As McCall overshot his receiver, Will Brooks was right there to grab it and sprint 85 yards for a defensive touchdown for Tennessee.
Man, you love a defensive score, right? You love a defensive score, and we say this all the time. Everybody's freaking out about the secondary, right? And, I mean, they're going to make mistakes. Don't worry, okay? They will make their mistakes this year, but what's going to help them is having a great, ferocious, deadly defensive line. And Joshua Joseph's coming off the edge, jumping up high, and forcing McCall to get over his hands and kind of put a little loft on that. Overthrows his receiver. Will Brooks steps in front of it, and the rest he met in the end zone with his teammates. So Tennessee was leading 17-3. Well, NC State punts again for the 3rd time in 4 possessions. That leads to another Tennessee field goal. Tennessee's up 20-3. NC State comes back, and NC State comes back and marches down the field and punts. Yeah, okay, and that leads to another Tennessee touchdown. This one is Miles Kitselman after another field goal for Tennessee. This is Miles Kitselman, and he scores from 15 yards out. I got a little confused there on the drive chart. Excuse me. Sorry about that. But this coming in to start the second half, Max Gilbert. Yeah, it was Max Gilbert. Kicked a field goal there as time expired in the first half. Tennessee went to the locker room 20-3. Tennessee got the football back. First possession, first drive. Miles Kitselman finishes with a 15-yard touchdown pass out of 12 personnel coming off the line of scrimmage. A beautiful throw from Nico Iamaleava. And for the first time in power conference play for Miles Kitselman, the veteran tight end finds the end zone.
Tennessee at the NC State 15-yard line on this opening drive, 3rd quarter. Nico, play fake, fires wide open in the end zone. Pass is caught. Touchdown, Tennessee. A 15-yard strike to Miles Kitselman. Kitselman, his first Tennessee touchdown. What a play fake. And Kitselman was wide open in the end zone, and Nico just lofted it to him for the Tennessee score.
And Tennessee is running the football so well, that play fake, right? He gets all the backers to come up, and you got to establish run. Got to respect the run. And coming off the line of scrimmage, Kitselman just slips behind those backers, wide open, and that's really all she wrote. From there, the route was on 27-3. Max Gilbert taps in a 36-yard field goal, makes it 30-3, and then Nico clears him out. 4:02 left in 3rd quarter, clears him out, empty set. It was a quarterback power from the get-go. I believe it was Dane Davis, the right tackle, kicking out the end man in the line of scrimmage. Nico beats the man coming behind Dane with pure speed through the line, and then he was off to the races. A 37-yard touchdown run. No, it was 31-yard touchdown run for Nico Iamaleava.
So now it's 3rd down and 6. Nico empties the backfield. Quarterback draw. He's got room to the 20, to the 10, to the checkerboards. Touchdown. Nico Iamaleava, 31 yards right up the middle. And Tennessee has scored again on NC State. It's now 36-3 on a brilliantly designed quarterback draw up the middle for Nico.
Yeah, you knew they've been holding that back, watching how North Carolina State was playing us when we spread them out. Two wide receivers on each side. They vacated the middle, and Nico found the hole, and they didn't even come close to touching him.
So that was a touchdown run by Nico Iamaleava. That was his second touchdown of the day. Unfortunately, he was intercepted, got hit while he was throwing at the 12-yard. See, that one's costly right there. He was at the 13-yard line of NC State. He was hit while he was throwing. Aiden White, the cornerback, who I told you about last week, he picked it off 87 yards to the house. It was the only touchdown scored for NC State in this football game, 37-10 at that point in time. Dylan Sampson gets to the edge, turns on the burners, 34 yards, 5 plays, 60-yard drive. Dylan Sampson, his second touchdown of the day. And this is how it sounded as Tennessee went up 44-10 with 14:07 left in the ballgame.
Going to hand the ball to Sampson. He gets to the 30, turns it upfield down the sideline.
He's
to the
gone.
10, to the 5. Touchdown, Tennessee.
Wow.
Dylan Sampson. What a burst down the sideline. He got right around that corner, and there was nobody left. And Dylan Sampson rushes 34 yards for the touchdown, and Tennessee scores again.
And like we've been talking about, it's been 3 straight games dating back to last season to where Tennessee's defense has not allowed an offensive touchdown. Iowa in the Citrus Bowl, UTC, and NC State. It's quite an accomplishment. Dylan Sampson has now rushed for over 100 yards in 3 straight games. Had 133 against Iowa in the Citrus Bowl, 124 and 3 touchdowns against UTC, and then 132 yards, 2 touchdowns against NC State. Keep in mind, he had 169 all-purpose yards because he hauled in 3 of those Utah passes. Final score of the day comes from Nico to Holden Stays. 2 games in, Nico's thrown a touchdown pass to all 3 of his tight ends, Ethan Davis against UTC, Miles Kitselman against NC State, and now Holden Stays 18 yards to make it 51-10 Tennessee.
3rd and 4. Iamaleava dumps it off of the flat. The pass complete to the other tight end. And that's Holden Stays. He catches at the 10 and runs into the end zone for another Tennessee touchdown. Nice play fake that time. They faked it to Bishop. Iamaleava rolled left and flipped it out in the flat to Stays, who caught it and got the touchdown for Tennessee.
That is how the scoring plays sounded, courtesy of the Vol Radio Network. I have written permission to play those clips here on Locked On Vols. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, it's Bob Kessling. It was Pat Ryan and Brent Hubbs, courtesy of the Vol Radio Network. I always want to say it's Bob Kessling and Burt Bertelkamp. No, that is the basketball call. All right, so when we come back, we'll take a look at the stats. I'll hand out some of my grades. I'll hand out some game balls. We'll continue to react to Tennessee's 51-10 win over NC State here on a Monday morning. Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. Sandal, sunscreen, snacks for the kids. What do all these have in common? You're probably buying a ton of them, or you probably did this summer. Even here in East Tennessee, it's still pretty hot here in the month of September. But don't stress about the cost. Use Ibotta and get cash back on all your purchases when you stock up on all the fall essentials. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn hundreds of items of groceries to beauty supplies, even toys, so you can make sure that you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta earner earns $256 per year. Sign me up for that, right? That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip to the grocery store, a fancy dinner you've been craving, even that flight to a destination of your choosing. It's time to join the over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. Right now, Ibotta is offering listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Go to the App Store or Google Play Store, download the free Ibotta app, start earning cash back, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's Ibotta, IBOTTA, and the Google Play Store or Apple Store. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege to get started today. Don't forget, mailbag edition of the show that is coming up tomorrow at _Cainer, at Locked On Vols. Hit me up, DMs, tweet me, Instagram. I'm out there as well. Put in the YouTube channel. I'll try to make a specific post at some point tonight to ask for some questions or on Sunday. And I want to answer your questions, man. A lot to talk about. Tennessee was awesome in Charlotte, and certainly got some bigger games on the schedule. Not this week for sure, but never a dull moment, baby. Tennessee's looking good, 2-0 on the season. Okay, so time for a little bit of a stat roundup and some Cainer grades. Again, defense, elite. Offense, they left a lot of meat on the bone, if you will, right? There's a lot to be desired in that performance, but still did some good things. Nico was far from bad. Tennessee's run game was solid. Tennessee's run blocking was good. Tennessee's pass blocking, Tennessee's passing game overall, and maybe some of that had to do with so much 12 personnel. I truly do believe that because you're changing the framework of your passing attack. You are taking a slot out of the football game, say Squirrel White. You're putting an extra tight end there. So one tight end, again, as I mentioned, on the line. On the other side of the line, you have the other tight end playing as an H-back. You have two of your receivers to the H-back side, okay? Or maybe no, it's away from the H. Nonetheless, it's a weird looking formation the way Tennessee does it, and it's 12 personnel. So still, there's a lot to be desired in terms of the pass game, but I thought Nico made some good throws, and you win by 41 points. It's not a bad day at the office whatsoever. Quarterback play, because of the 2 turnovers, and yes, I understand Nico got drilled on one of them. I know Nico more than made up for it on the ground. He scored a total of 3 touchdowns. Again, I thought he was fine, but I mean, like if I'm assigning grades here, you can't not take off points for turning the football over, and he did it twice. One specific time led to points, or led to a pick 6, and it was when you were on the 13-yard line. So Nico, a lot to learn. He said it after the game. He's got that mindset that I love, right? It's like, yeah, proud of everybody, happy about the win, super pumped, we're going to have fun. But yeah, I know there's a lot more I can get better at. And I just love that mindset. Also, there was one point in time when he was running the football and he got tackled and somebody was giving him a little extra shove and Nico kind of gave him a shove. I'm like, man, okay, that's a little Hendon Hooker in you right there, right? Do you remember Hendon at Florida or against Florida? I like seeing that. Anyway, my grade for Nico, despite throwing for 69% on the day, despite going 16-23, 211 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 65 yards on the ground and a touchdown, I'll give him a C+. That's fine, guys. The world's not ending. No need to jump in the comments and tell me how I'm such a Nico hater. Far from it. But, you know, giving grades, you turned it over twice. But 51-10 and your quarterback has a C+, right? It's a pretty good day. Running backs A, man, I thought Dylan Sampson was awesome. Certainly in the Utah passing game. Certainly on the ground. He was a true RB1. Cam Selden did not play in this football game. Got a little bit banged up last week. I believe it was in practice. I'm not totally sure on that. We'll see about his availability moving forward for this week. But I thought Deshaun Bishop played well in his absence. And I love the fact that Deshaun Bishop was sprinting down the field, trying to catch up with Aiden White on that pick 6. He did catch him, but it was in the end zone. But even Deshaun Bishop, 10 carries, 42 yards, averaging 4.2 yards per pop. Offensive line did a fantastic job. Tight ends did a fantastic job in that regard. Running backs get an A. Tight ends get a B+. I thought Miles Kitselman had a great game. For what it's worth, we'll talk about it a little bit more on tomorrow's show in terms of blocking grades and snap counts and all that. Miles Kitselman had a great game according to Pro Football Focus. And Ethan Davis did as well, but Ethan Davis's snap counts were a little bit down compared to Holton Stays and Miles Kitselman because those were the 2 tight ends they were kind of rolling out there for 12 personnel. But I thought the tight ends did well. Again, continue to block well in the run game too. So B+ for the tight ends. Wide receivers get a B. 9 different pass catchers tallied a reception for Nico. I love that. Like Dante Thornton, I don't think caught a reception. He's the one that went off last week. There were just so many different playmakers that you can use. I love that fact. But Kitselman caught one. Sampson caught some. Brazo, White, Davis, Stays, McCoy, Webb. Not bad at all. Tight ends get a B, wide receivers get a B. Passing game wasn't a huge focal point in this football game when it's all said and done, to be honest. The offensive line, I do think at times it struggled with pass protection. I think Nico got rattled a little, hit around a little bit at times. I thought Nico actually handled everything that 3-3 stack was kind of throwing at him, even killed as well. Not too high, not too low. Offensive line, it's hard not to give them an A. When you ran for 250, you allowed 0 sacks, and you had 460 yards of total offense. So I'll give the offensive line an A. I'm going to make it quick. I'm going to make it easy. I'm not even going to go into great detail. Everybody on the defensive side of the football gets an A. Special teams gets an A-. No, special teams gets a B+. Had a couple penalties on special teams. Max Gilbert technically missed 1 field goal, but boy, he made 3. I think special teams is going to be a weapon for Tennessee, as it always is. Coaching gets an A, but the defensive line, because Eason played well, Amari Thomas played well, Omar Norman Law played well, Dom Bailey played well, Joshua Josephs played well, James Pierce even though he didn't get home, played well, played a defensive line high 29 snaps as well. I love what Tennessee's defensive line did exactly what I thought it would, just dominating that opposing offensive line for NC State. Linebackers, man, I thought Peely played well except for his silly penalty he got. He's got to know better than that. People were saying, well, he had to have not known that he was down. My response is, how in the world would he not know the ball carrier was down when everybody in the stadium knew that? Anyway, he made a lot of plays. Great block on Will Brooks's interception return for a touchdown. Thought Arian Carter played well. Thought Jalen Smith, who played in place of Caleb Perry, who was out with illness, played well. And Jeremiah Thielen played well. I thought Tennessee's linebackers had a good day. Tennessee's defensive backs, Jamal McCoy, flash, man. Will Brooks had the pick 6. I thought Boo Carter missed a couple of tackles, but I thought he made a couple of nice plays that aren't going to show up in the stat sheet. I thought Tennessee's defensive back certainly, gets a passing grade, gets an A in this one because, stopping Concepcion, he had 3 receptions on the opening drive. He had 2 receptions after that. That's it. That's all. Tennessee's defense did a great job of finding him, helping, covering him, and making sure he didn't take over the game. All in all, Tennessee won 51-10. Game ball goes to Miles Kitselman. Game ball goes to Dylan Sampson. And my game ball goes to Max Gilbert, man. I know he missed that 52-yarder, but how good do we feel about Tennessee's place kicker now? Had a couple kicks last week. Had a couple kicks away from Neyland Stadium. Not gimmies at 45. It was good. 36 was good. 32 was good. 53 he missed, but the game was already in hand then. I like what I've been seeing from Max Gilbert. So special teams, Max Gilbert. Offensively goes to Miles Kitselman. Offensively also goes to Dylan Sampson. And then you got to give a game ball to somebody on defense, right? Well, I'm not going to single anybody out because it was all that group. Defense, the entire defense gets a game ball. Or we can say defensive coordinator Tim Banks gets a game ball because it was that entire side of the football that was truly elite on Saturday. Awesome stuff. Tennessee is 2-0. 2-0 are the Volunteers, and will come back home to play Kent State Saturday at, wait for it, 7:45. Yikes! Got to wait around all day for what's going to be an 87-0 score, favor for Tennessee. Tennessee, Kent State coming up on Saturday at 7:45. We'll recap a little bit more of NC State this week on tomorrow's show. And we'll obviously look forward to everything that's going to come up this week for Tennessee and Kent State. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to Locked On Vols. Get in those questions, those comments for tomorrow's mailbag show. We will answer those for you everydayers right here on Locked On Vols.